know what it feel like to be young and single. You know the life when your pockets got a bunch of singles. You know taking double shots saying
dark when Mark arrived, maybe 6:45 in the morning time. In the 10th grade, we was tight friends, but neither of us had a driver's license. His aunt was a flight attendant, and she'd so we used to get tempted, that intense tendency to tend to what we wasn't meant to. We would skip out on class and shit to go visit other schools, just trying to act cool. And looking back, I have to laugh at it, cause all we did was burn up gas and flunk math, fool. But still, it was super ill. I mean, 2 teenagers in a new Seville, with 1987 in the tape deck. That was a part of my life that I'll never forget. It went, the soundtrack still runs through my head. I gotta keep every single step. As old as we get, we don't forget. We won't forget, we don't forget. The soundtrack still runs through my head. I gotta keep every single step. As old as we get, we don't forget. We won't forget. And you can't tell me nothing about frontin'. We wasn't even 16 yet. Come on, jump in. Cruise control until we lose control. Max the low end out to let it bruise my soul. And God knows I should have been studying, so maybe I could grow up and be somebody. But I love the looks that the girls shot at me from the bus stop when we pulled up in that caddy. Good thing back then I had bad game, otherwise it'd probably be a few with my last name. Better that my true love was rap, now let it auto reverse until the bad dub snaps. Felt so right, forgot we was wrong. Sitting at a stoplight, singing along. When I look in my rear view now, what would I see if I didn't have the music in my history? Now give it to me. The soundtrack still runs through my head. I gotta keep every single step. As old as we get, we don't forget. We won't forget, we don't forget.
And I'm now unmuted. Perfect. Right? Audio check. How do I sound? Good? Too loud? Too quiet? Turn it up on the thing, right? Turn it up on here instead. How's that? Good? Better? Make sure I'm in camera still. Turn it up. How is that? Is it better than that before?
Just turn it up all the way.
Turn it up all the way?
Yeah.
Big Bedicus. I can always get closer if I need to as well. I can move this a little bit. We can be flexible here. Alright. Flexibility is key. If I need to turn it up a little bit, I can too. I also switched the mode that it was in, remember? So that could be affecting it too.
Turn it up a little bit on your mic.
A little bit on my mic? We can do that. We can do a little bit on the mic. Testing. A little bit on the mic, a little bit on the mic. My camera broke. Good. Great. Love that. Thank you to The Fire and Craziest Redhead for being here. Whether you're lurking, whether you're going to be actually watching the content with us, then we'll move on from there. But so I have a couple things that we'll be doing tonight. The main thing is we're going to be reviewing the Chris Hedges report, which if you don't know who Chris Hedges is, he's a leading scholar and he's a journalist. He's been a journalist. I don't think he's actually classified as a scholar, but he's written books, but he's been a journalist for a long time, and he has covered Gaza in perpetuity forever. And it's been one of the biggest stains on what he sees on the American track record. So he has just released a report with, if you don't know who Francesca Albanese is, if I said her name incorrectly, I apologize, but These essentially are two of the biggest people that have led, for my opinion, on Free Palestine and really bringing into light the objective reality that we are facing, and not enough people are talking about it. So I'm hoping to create these late night streams for myself that I can, promote my advocacy and encourage other people to do the same, to encourage that, a lot of love in the world. Like, we need to be love warriors right now. We need to be the voices for people who cannot speak, and that's what I want these sessions to be about. So yeah, thank you if you're coming in from anything, from TikTok, from anywhere. Yeah, we're gonna have a great time, and we're gonna talk about a lot of things. So we're gonna be reviewing again the Chris Hedges report with Francesca Albanese. If you don't know who they are, again, you can find them on Twitter. Like, it's really easy to find a lot of these people on Twitter. And they're always live tweeting a lot of the stuff that they're doing and what they're advocating for. So if you need to get active, like, go find your sources. It's not too hard, and you're always welcome to, ask in chat and stuff like that. So thank you for the Free Palestine. Yes, nobody is free until Palestine is free, and that is just an objective fact. If there's anything that you can learn from everybody from MLK to Black Panthers to Nelson Mandela to any civil rights activist, is that until everybody's on the same playing field, nobody's actually free. So super important that we keep that at the forefront of our mission, and that we spread love to as many people as we can, and hope that they're going to change their ways of thinking, and that's what we do. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and review the links first. Let's see. Is it plus? How do I pull up my display capture? 4?
Yeah.
Boom. Oh, good. You let me know how. Does this look okay on stream? Can everybody see?
Yeah.
It looks really small for me, but like, if you're in stream, you can see it really well.
I mean, you're gonna have to read the words.
I can zoom it in. It's okay. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Maybe we can go a little bit less out. Okay, so this, and I can go ahead and read some of it if it's needed. This is a doctor who's currently in Gaza right now. If you need to see, this is from his Twitter page. It's Motaz Salet. I'm trying to find where. None of this is even loading. Okay, let's see. I'll have to bring up this one's the X page for this, but because it's from the doctor himself. But obviously, this is a donation that you guys can. You guys are welcome to donate to. They have a link that you can find. You can look up him on Twitter if you need more verification for it. But he's somebody I've been following for a long time on Twitter. But he's a doctor who's in Gaza right now. So if you need this, if you need more information on who you're donating to and etc., you can go ahead and do that. But yes, please, if you can donate to this. You'll be donating directly to a doctor in Gaza right now. So, some of the biggest impact you can have, considering that, there hasn't been food and everything in months there, and people are operating with nothing. Got the third cart taken on. I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so the second link that I have in there is to this, the Gaza Writes Back. You guys, again, are welcome to go ahead and read through all this, but these are Palestinian poets, book writers, people who have lived the experience in Gaza and what it's like there. There's so many good firsthand information and sources in here. And it's organized by this man right here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of an experience that I had during my advocacy. And it was how this man was able just to hit my heart in a way that just was able to help me realize and recognize so much about my own life that was, made of, it helped me recognize my privilege. Excuse me. Essentially, Rafat is he was a professor in Gaza, and when October 7th happened and I started learning about everything, and he was one of the people in Gaza that I found on Twitter, and I started learning more about him and reading more about him, and I followed him on Twitter, and he was posting about what was happening and the active aggression, Israeli aggression at the time, and how it was he was putting an exclamation on the fact that they were taking out journalists and other people. They not only were they taking out journalists, but he was trying to amplify the voice of the people that are getting murdered are poets. There were people and artists. Like, they weren't just targeting they were not just targeting just even journalists. It was all the way down to people that were considered, somebody who could have been considered the Nelson Mandela of Gaza, right? Rafat right here. But that's what they did. That was part of their campaign. And they, and part of Rafat, he was on Twitter as well. And I started following him on there. And he posted this on November 1st. This is, again, I had learned about October 7th and what had happened, and then I learned more about the Israel-Palestine, really the occupation of Palestine. I learned about the occupation of Palestine and what it really was. And this man right here, he wrote a poem right here. Again, if you would like to read it, please do. But he posted this right before he was. He posted this not too long, essentially, before he was assassinated by the Israeli army, and they called him and told him that it was going to happen. They called him and told him that it was going to happen. And I was just getting involved with everything, and then I was on Twitter, and I had found out some people were posting Rafat. They were tagging his profile, and I was like, why is everybody tagging him? And I go and I found out that he had been assassinated, and I was like, to see this man actively tweeting and giving me information, helping me learn about what was going on, and then to have that voice actively silenced is it was just a crazy experience for me, and I can't even it doesn't even compare to anything else that he's been through. I just want to talk about that experience, something that I think would connect with a lot of people, and then on top of that, share these links. One that you can help yourself if you're able to donate, and then another one with hopefully just sharing some artistry and some voices that aren't really heard. Again, I want to be a voice for people who are just voiceless. So I hope that gets that across. So thank you, Noah Sampson, He is a YouTuber, and he really helped inspire me of like, if you have the availability to talk about it, talk about it. Like, there's not enough people talking about it. So I hope we can grow a community of people who talk about it, who are willing to, yeah, who are willing to be that voice for people. So, yeah, we'll have games early in the day, have some fun, and then talk about this stuff that's going on, and stuff that I feel is really important to talk about. So, again, so we're going to review the main part of this, the Chris Hedges report. I'll probably be silent for, not all, I won't be silent, I'll be chiming in with a lot of this, but these are two experts and scholars, and really they should have the floor a lot more than me, regardless if this is my stream or not. But this is absolutely somebody, if you need information or you want to get connected to really what's happening in the world, the Chris Hedges report and Francesca Albanese, they will never steer you wrong. So, yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and get this started. My headset died, so I'm gonna have to plug that in. Let me know how it is volume. Oh,
Just an outspoken champions for justice. When the history of the genocide in Gaza is written, one of the most courageous and outspoken champions for justice and adherence to international law will be Francesca Albanese, the special rapporteur on human rights in the Palestinian territories. Albanese, an Italian legal scholar, has held the position of UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in the Palestinian territories since 2022. Her office is tasked with monitoring and reporting on human rights violations that Israel commits against Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. Albanese, who receives death threats and endures well-orchestrated smear campaigns directed by Israel and its allies, valiantly seeks to hold those who support and sustain the genocide accountable. She lambasts what she calls the moral and political corruption of the world for the genocide. Her office has issued detailed reports documenting the war crimes committed by Israel in Gaza and the West Bank, one of which, genocide as colonial erasure, I reprinted as an appendix in my latest book, A Genocide Foretold. She is at work on a new report exposing the banks, pension funds, tech companies, and universities that are aiding and abetting Israel's violations of international law, human rights, and war crimes. She has informed private organizations that they are criminally liable for assisting Israel in carrying out the genocide in Gaza. She announced that if, as has been reported, former British Foreign Secretary David Cameron threatened to defund and withdraw from the International Criminal Court if it issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, Cameron and the former British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak could be charged with a criminal offense under the Rome Statute. The Rome Statute criminalizes those who seek to prevent war crimes from being prosecuted. She has called on top EU officials to face charges of complicity or war crimes over their support for the genocide, saying that their actions cannot be met with impunity. She was a champion of the Madeleine Flotilla that sought to break the blockade of Gaza and deliver humanitarian aid, writing that the boat, intercepted by Israel, was carrying not only supplies, but a message of humanity. Joining me to discuss the genocide in Gaza and the failure by Western governments to intervene.
Before, she does this for free. The UN positions, especially the UN's position on Special Rapporteur for Palestine, she does it for free. She doesn't get paid for that. She doesn't get paid for the reports she puts out in the Security Council. She She's getting paid for that. So it's funny when you hear like people usher in corruption and she's corrupted, and it's funny, like that's just so, it's so funny to hear that because she does this as a free job, like it's a free thing.
Or adhere to international law is Francesca Albanese.
Albanese. Francesca
Let's just lay out
Albanese.
where we are in Gaza. It's very bleak. We can't sugarcoat it, especially since March 2nd.
Yes, Chris, this is not. So first of all, thanks for having me. Such a pleasure. Look, the situation in Gaza has gone so rotten, so horrible that I really don't have the words to describe it anymore. I remember that when I had the first reports about cases of starvation, it was last year, primarily in northern Gaza, which, by the way, is completely cut off our understanding of what's going on in Gaza, in the sense the misery that we see is in the south of Gaza. The north is completely obscured. But when I received the first reports on starvation, I remember people from Gaza saying, we are turning into monsters. And this is something that I hear more and more from people. The hunger is so much, it's so widespread, so profound, that is turning people into a stage of pre-humanity. And this is what happens to people who experience this brutality, that they are forced, they are pushed back into a space which predates civilization. And it's again, thinking that this is strategic, this is intentional from Israel. It's a stain for all of us. How can we let it happen? Why European states, why Arab states have not sent their navies yet to break the blockade? It must be done.
And I feel like when I was learning about all this, like I can't, like that, those exact questions as like just a normal person, you know, like this forced me to learn about human rights, what it is, and how it literally does not exist in 2025. Like we live in a world where human rights don't exist. How can we say, especially like in America, how can you say that you're at the most antiquated and the highest point of civilization? How can you say that? How can you say, you know, we bake in our privilege, we bake in it? And some people overcooked and they voted for Trump.
It's an obligation, it's not an act of charity. They must break the siege. And it's already too late, you know. This is the situation in Gaza. It's devastating.
How can we let this happen?
Well, this is, you know, the kind of action of the flotilla with Greta Thunberg. Of course, they weren't going to get through, but it was an act of shaming in a way, an act of conscience, certainly an act of courage. Your voice has been one that has just been unwavering since the genocide began. And yet, at the same time, I think many of us who speak out against the genocide have to accept that we haven't been able to save a single life, and yet we must keep speaking out anyway.
Have to.
Yeah. Look, I often wonder, what is it for? Because I feel...
when you hear these two saying that, right? People who have reported on this for... Oh, shit. People who have reported on this and done these, like, talked about this for, you know, X amount of time, for like, their careers, you know, amongst other activism, like, when they're saying that,
in a way, restless. I never stop talking about Gaza, the West Bank, the Palestinians, because I think like many, I carry a wound right now. It's something that I would have never wanted to see happening again. I am also from a generation who saw the genocide in Rwanda, who read about the genocide in Rwanda. I have vivid memories of the genocide in Bosnia Herzegovina, and seeing the genocide of the Palestinian happening like in slow motion and being the chronicler of this genocide somewhat has made as irreparably wounded me. But it's okay. But the only thing is that my only form of healing is by making sure that people wake up and realize that
Yes.
this is carries the fingerprints of all of us. And when I say that, I'm not using an hyperbole. I'm real. I mean, it's real because when you see the profits that companies registered in Western countries and others are making out of the genocide of the Palestinians, you see, I mean, you lose hope in humanity for good. And it's true that we have not managed to save lives, but we don't know. We don't know, Chris, in fact, because I do believe that had Israel been left free hands, he would have already cleansed Gaza of the Palestinians. While in fact, by denouncing what Israel is doing, we are contributing to make sure that Palestine doesn't disappear from the maps.
Right.
Because somewhat inside me, I have this sense that
Like, I don't think people take into that like a state. Like, I don't think people get that scope sometimes of like I remember reading statistics about like how many families had been wiped off the map, and it's like, you're talking about an entire place that existed. And I remember I got into an argument with somebody, and I was like, all of our privilege and everything that we have, everything that I have, is not worth any of this. It's not worth, it's not worth the destruction, the democide of a people. It's not worth it.
uh, the sacrifice of the Palestinians in Gaza will continue. Will continue, really, will continue unless there is an arms embargo and unless the blockade I mean, the siege is broken, and it cannot happen without coercive measures. The only way to protect Israel, to ensure that Israel is protected, is by stopping Israel. Israel is harmful to the Palestinians, to the region, is harmful to many of us, and he's harmful to itself and its citizens. This is something that Israelis must understand. None of us working for human rights and justice have anything. Personally, I have a lot of pain for the Israelis themselves, because I think that this is, they must be traumatized to the point that they've lost their humanity. And I can just think of a huge form of healing, both for the Palestinians and the Israelis. But again, I don't know, surely we have not saved lives, but we have contributed to show the real face of Israel's apartheid.
When you talk about coercive measures, I covered the withdrawal of Iraqi forces from northern Iraq when they were carrying out a genocidal campaign against the Kurds. NATO forces established a no-fly zone. Iraqi forces had to withdraw. What was happening to the Kurds doesn't begin to compare, finally, what is happening to the Palestinians in Gaza. But it was clear at that moment that only coercive measures would save the Kurds, and you're, of course, correctly pointing out that that is exactly now where we are with the Palestinians, that without coercive measures, and that has to be imposed from the outside, then Israel's campaign of genocide and probably displacement will not be stopped.
No, absolutely. And you know what shocks me is that when I talk to member states, even the most enlightened, so to speak, in the global, I mean, in the West, which I call the global minority, given our territorial irrelevance in this world. But even when he spoke to member states who seem to have an enlightened position and a human rights oriented position on Palestine, when I make my recommendations to them, they say, "Oh, but you really expect us to boycott Israel?" Well, you're a state. It's not
Well,
up to
yeah,
you to
like,
boycott. You have an
you have
obligation
to.
to not
Like,
to aid, not to assist, not.
like just going off of like what she's saying right now, especially is like America's violating the Leahy law. Like it's violating its own law in abetting this.
To trade with Israel,
Like,
not to
yes, you're a
send
state.
weapons, not to buy weapons, not to provide military technology, not to buy.
How are things gonna change? How are things gonna change if you don't make it change? Oh, get out of here. Look, I need remove the space. What the fuck? You know, you got that, sweetie? Yeah, you do. You're incredible. You're incredible. It's the same concept, and this is what I really want to put my message out to be, which is like there's two things, right? Like just like be the change you want to see, right? So if you want things to change, you have to be that change. And then two, the other part of it is that not only do you have to be the change you want to see, but like when you talk about this stuff, like you have to humanize people. Like you're talking about people who don't. Oh, thank you, Miranda. I really appreciate you. Like people will always tell you, and I remember, you know, and you can look back at your own life, I'm sure, but in my own life, I can't tell you like the entire experience of people being like, well, that's the way it is. Well, that's the way it is, and it's like, well, that's the way it is because enough people are saying that. Therefore, it perpetuates that. It's just your self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Military technology. This is not an act of charity that I'm asking you. This is your obligation. And this sort of nonchalance that member states have, even the ones who appear the most principled, toward the disrespect of international, because this is what they do. They are, with great nonchalance, they violate international law through and through. And the only thing that comes to their mind is, but do you think that we are really going to isolate Israel? Yeah. Yes. I mean, the fact that they are really struggling with the thought is a measure of how far we are from the solution of the question.
Wow.
What do you think? I mean, starvation, and you know, over what, 500,000 Palestinians are now on the cusp of starvation.
I tell you, you could quote this woman every time, any interview, anything, anytime she is writing a report, anything, you could quote her. Like she is incredible at taking this concept and putting it into a way that it's just so simple, it's so human, and it makes so much sense.
Territorial irrelevance in this world. But even when he spoke to member states who seem to have an enlightened position and a human rights oriented position on Palestine, when I make my recommendations to them, they say, "Oh, but you really expect us to boycott Israel?" Well, you're a state. It's not up to you to boycott. You have an obligation to not to aid, not to assist, not to trade with Israel, not to send weapons, not to buy
Lily.
weapons,
Welcome.
not to provide military technology, not to buy military technology.
Thank you for the follow, Lily Dilly. And welcome to the stream. Yeah, as you can see, we're reviewing the Chris Hedges report. You can see what it's about right there. If you have any questions about what we've talked about so far, or if you're just lurking, whatever it is, thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you so much.
Technology. This is not an act of
Free
charity that
Palestine,
I'm
thank you
asking
so
you.
much. Much love.
This is your obligation. And this sort of
That is perfect. Thank you so much.
nonchalance that member states have, even the ones who appear the most principled toward the
Don't forget, you can
disrespect
type in commands as
of
well. We do
international,
have
because
commands
this is what
for
they
the
do.
screen.
They are, with great nonchalance, they violate international law through and through. And the only thing that comes to
Oh, yeah, you
their
got it.
mind is, but do you think that we are really going to isolate Israel? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact that they are really struggling with the thought is a measure of how far we are from the solution of the question.
What do you think? I mean, starvation, and you know, over what, 500,000 Palestinians are now on the cusp of starvation.
So, again, for what she said a minute ago was like, the fact that she has to, like, the fact that she puts out the reports to the states, and these are, when she's saying this, she's talking about the member states of the UN, so all the United Nations member states. She's saying, these are steps you have to take in order to ensure that the humanitarian situation doesn't get worse, but on top of that, everything else, right, to like she said, stop Israel from hurting itself at this point. When she says that, she says, the fact that you even have to say that to the member states shows you how far you are actually away from the solution. And that, like, just hearing that gave me chills. I was like, that's incredible.
And then there is the whole issue of water. There's no clean water. And then, of course, medical supplies or humanitarian anything. No, 90% of the Palestinians are either living in tents or in the open air.
90%.
Where is this headed?
90%.
They're luring
There
the
was
Palestinians
5 million people there,
like mice into a trap in the south with these, you know, and nobody thinks that the aid hubs or the amount of food, the paltry amount of food, is anything more than bait to essentially cram Palestinians into guarded compounds.
Thank you for using the command,
in the south, and of course they're shooting dozens of Palestinians often a day in desperation, trying to get something to eat. Are they going to push them into the Sinai? Do you have any sense, or maybe Israel doesn't know, but do you have any sense of where this is going to go next?
I don't have a precise sense other than knowing that Israel would be fine with whatever solution that takes the Palestinians out of the Gaza Strip for now, and then out of the West Bank later, and then probably out of Israel. These are the 3 stages of the planned ethnic cleansing of historical Palestine, because your audience shall never forget that Israel is a state that was created inside Palestine. So what we are talking about, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem, are the little pieces of land that remain, and even there, Palestinians are not let free to enjoy the right of self-determination, like existing as a people. Israel is after this. Israel doesn't want the Palestinians either way. This is the real victory. Because when 80% of the population supports the government in maintaining this level of violence toward the Palestinians, especially those in Gaza who are starving as we speak, who have nothing left, then their dignity and the very few things and loves that remain in their life. And
Miranda,
the only
window's
victory
open.
for this government, which represents a large portion
My
of
bad.
the Israeli society, is to get rid of the Palestinians. I mean, of course, it doesn't matter if it's the Sinai or Congo. They are begging every country to take the Palestinians. And the problem is that no one can do that unless they are forced, unless the Palestinians ask and beg for being saved. This is so cruel, and this is what's happening. But the Palestinians have not done it yet. So Eyal Weissman has a of forensic architecture has a very interesting way, having studied other genocides like the German genocide of the Nama and Herero people in Namibia, saying this way that the Israel are following to confine the people in a place where they cannot survive on their own. It's like a concentration camp. It's like being fully dependent on a hand that gives you, that hands out something, but that's not sustainable. And all the rest is being destroyed. Gaza will not return to what it was because of the environmental damage, because of the contamination, because of all what Gaza is today. But it doesn't matter. If there is a place where the Palestinians from Gaza will move, is Israel. This is the opportunity to let the Palestinians return to their original homeland. And I understand that this is a huge shock, comes as a huge shock for the Israelis, but sooner or later they would have been confronted with this. They are living like other settler societies. Sorry, you're living on stolen land. And you cannot, like the Americans, or who are not Native Americans, and like the Australians who are not Aboriginal. You are living on stolen land. And the only redemption that you can have in this life, it's making right the wrongs of the past. So this is what conscientious Israelis should do.
I want to talk about erasure. Israel is not just physically erasing Palestine, and of course has attacked its universities, its museums, its cultural centers. It has physically erased or killed through targeted assassinations its intellectual class, its writers, its poets, over 200 journalists, its doctors. And to what extent, and I want you to talk about the heavy campaigns that have been mounted against you by AIPAC and the Israel lobby, not only, I think, because you're outspoken, but because your reports make it hard for Israel to erase what they've done and erase what is happening, which all genocidal killers seek to do.
Look, I often say that the attacks against me are emblematic of various aspects of this struggle. On the one hand, what happens to me is not unique in the sense that being accused of being pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, it's the litany of falsehood that everyone, from the Pope to the Secretary General, to scholars, activists, journalists, anyone with a minimum of decency who has dared denouncing the abhorrent reality in Palestine had to face. So what has happened to me, again, is not unique. What I think is unique is the relentlessness of the attacks and how they continue to grow, because I don't give up. I believe it's that, because the more they threaten me, the more I say, let me see how better I can do my job. Because it's not about, I call them the barking dogs. They're really barking dogs, and they don't matter. They don't matter. Their objective is to distract me, and they will not succeed. Because I know them, I understand them. Because I often say, I come from a place that has been plagued by the mafias. You know how many things I've realized over the past months, also about myself. Why am this the way? Why I'm not scared by them? Why every time I ignite my car, I am scared. Of course, there are times where I don't open the door thinking, oh my God, who's going to be behind it?
All this woman has done is report on Palestine. Free of charge. For the United Nations. That's all she's done. That is her only offense. And she's telling you that she has to worry about her car being blown up.
But this is why I live my life in a way that it's full of meaning. I love my family. I love my kids. I love my husband. I love my friends. I love my colleagues. And this is what I treasure and I cherish every day. And every day, whenever I manage to go to bed and sleep, I have no regrets because I'm doing what everyone should be doing. So on the one hand, if I were someone in Gaza or in other places in Palestine, but even one of the many Israelis with whom I interact constantly and feel desperate because feel devastated by what is being done in their name, if I were one of these people, I would like to have someone who understands them, who listens to them, and who connects the dots. This is the thing that annoys my detractors superbly. The fact that on the one hand they don't manage to make me shut up, rather the contrary. At every attempted slap, there is a storm against them. Doesn't matter where they come from, doesn't matter who they are. It always turns into more support over me. This is why when people ask me, oh, how do you feel to be so hated? By whom? By this bunch of minions and charlatans
Exactly.
who are defending the genocide.
Who are
cares?
Who
cares?
Who are they?
But there is an entire world which is in turmoil, and somewhat I have the possibility to be listened to, which is a huge privilege for me. And because I know how fallacious the human nature can be, my anchor continues to be international law, to the best way I can of interpreting it, because this is universal. This applies to all of us. This is for all of us.
Right.
So I'm not bringing my precepts or my ideology. I'm bringing something that belongs to all of us. And this is the thing that annoys the detractors, is that I use the solidity of the facts and the law to tell them who they are, to put them in front of a mirror. And it's not that they don't like me, they dislike the image that through me they get of themselves, genocidaire or supporters of a genocide.
And how many arguments and conversations do you have with people that are like that, right? That like you talk about these things, and it can be amongst other things, but they get upset because they're hearing how other people or they're not hearing how other people are seeing them, which when they talk about, especially, Israel, Palestine, they sound like freaks.
How much has this changed the global community? And I'm thinking in particular, of course, within the global South, which suffered their own Holocausts. You mentioned the Herero and the Namakwa, but the Armenians, the Kenyans under British colonialism, the Indians, especially the 1943 Bengal famine, for instance, 3 million Indians died. And these Holocausts are not recognized by their perpetrators. Ami Cesare in Discourse on Colonialism says that the reason that the Holocaust carried out by the Nazis against the Jews resonated was because the tactics that were employed, and these are his words, against the coolies in India and the blacks in Africa and the Algerians by the French in Algeria just were turned on other white Europeans. But and of course it's been the global South, led by South Africa, that has stood up to try and impose the rule of law on Israel on the genocide. But is this reconfiguring the global community?
I think it is. I think it is not as fast as ending the genocide would require, but
Right.
it is. So there are different trends that I see. First of all, as you say, there is a coming together around certain basic things. I've never heard so many people speaking the language of international law. Seriously. I mean, it's as a lawyer, as a human rights lawyer, if I were given the opportunity to not to look at the genocide for a moment, I would feel that the human rights mission is somewhat fulfilled because people are aware through a common lens that is allowing many, really, from Africa to Asia to the global minority and other places, really, to look at Palestine and recognize that there is some commonalities. People speak the language of human rights. Phenomenal,
speak the language
right?
of liberation.
There is also another aspect of awakening is that never before have I heard so many people connecting the dots between the past and the present and the colonial past and the present. I don't know if you agree with me, but at least I sense that there is a global awareness of something that has for a long time being a prerogative, a painful prerogative of the global majority, the global south, meaning the awareness of the pain and the wounds of colonialism. Israel as a settler colonial frontier, a Western settler colonial frontier, is giving an opportunity to understand what settler colonialism is and has done. And this is one. The third thing is that the awakening is coming by linking the dots. And look, I mean, we will have a chance to talk once my report is out. But I keep on saying two things as I prepare myself to unveil what I've discovered through the findings of the last 6 months of investigation. That the genocide in Gaza has not stopped because it's lucrative. It's profitable for far too many. It's a business. People have exploited. I mean, there are corporate entities, including from Palestine-friendly states, who have for decades made businesses and made profits out of the economy of the occupation. Because Israel has always exploited Palestinian land and resources and Palestinian life. But, I mean, the profits have continued and even increased as the economy of the occupation transformed into an economy of genocide. And again, people need to understand that. Because Palestinians have simply, and I say simply with a lot of pain, and I don't mean disrespectful toward the Palestinians, but they have provided these boundless.
Dude, and it's funny because I remember talking about this stuff a while ago, like while I was learning about it. The Israeli using Meta WhatsApp to kill Palestinians in Gaza through AI system. Israeli AI aided system. Lavender is identified alleged suspects. So like this is I'm not even gonna read the rest. I like this is the AI app that when a person would be suspected or identified as a Hamas terrorist, which terrorism doesn't exist in international law, so when they were identified to that, it would wait for them to get back to their home where they were living, so it would maximize casualty rates.
Like training field to test technologies, to test weapons, to test surveillance techniques that now are being used against people everywhere.
Like this is AIs being used to kill people, and it's humans behind it. Like I feel like governments have always done this for a long time, used their human populace to extort and extract and etc. But This is something this is an AI aided genocide right now.
Where from the global south to the global north. Look at what's happening in the United States or in
Oh yeah, this is another good one. The database that is supposed to be um, created to track all the people in the United States, and it's funny because, you know, Germany had something similar to an all in one database for their citizens. Um, that helped them identify who they needed. So I can't remember if there's anything else on this. Like yeah, like it's funny because Israel, you know what Israel has? Israel has an entire database of all the Palestinians.
Germany. We are spied. I mean,
I think
look at the use of drones.
she might have been just saying what I was saying. Somebody might know, but
Like training field to test technologies, to test weapons, to test surveillance techniques that now are being used against people everywhere from the global south to the global north. Look at what's happening in the United States or in Germany. We are spied. I mean, look at the use of drones, of biometrics. These are all things that have been experienced on the Palestinians first and foremost. So I think that there is this link that unfettered and boundless, unchecked capitalism, which has been like a colonial racial capitalism also for the Palestinians, is detrimental for all of us. So, how to respond to this? I do see a movement, I do see a revolution brewing. I call it the watermelon revolution. And it's there. There are young people, workers, anti Zionist Jews, or Jews who do not recognize themselves as anti Zionist, but still don't want to have anything to do with Israel's crimes and don't want them to be in their names. So there is this movement, and at the level of countries, I see, for example, the Hague Group,
yeah,
which is a coalition primarily
I just started following
of
them.
countries from the global south, and it shouldn't be like that. So I've supported, I've sustained, I've commended these countries, and I call on other states from Asia to Africa and especially the West to join the Hague Group, which says let's start
Yeah, thank you.
by taking some modicum, some minimal steps to comply with international law. No impunity, no harbor, and no weapons for Israel, which is really basic. But here's where we are, baby steps.
Can you talk about, in this report that's coming out, some of the global corporations that are profiting off of genocide and how they're profiting off of genocide?
I won't be able to tell you much because the report is still embargoed. But I decided to list about 50 corporate entities from arms manufacturers to big tech companies, to construction and to companies providing construction materials or extracting construction materials from the occupied Palestinian territory, to the tourism industry, goods and services, supply chain. There is this, so far, and also these are the two main sectors of the displacement replacement of the Palestinians. And then there is a network of enablers like insurers, pension funds, wealth funds, like pension funds, banks, universities, charities. It's an ecosystem sustaining this illegality. And the private sector tends to escape scrutiny. They're very smart. And in fact, the private sector has historically been either a driver of settler colonialism. Think that during the 1600s, for example, think of the companies of the Indies. They were living from the Netherlands, the Dutch ports, to reach and colonize West India or Southeast Asia. I mean, why? Why on earth? And this has happened. But also, there are also cases where companies or private entities were not the drivers, but the enablers, providing tools, funds for colonial enterprises that then profited them. And this is why big companies and corporate interest have helped shape the law to in a way that allowed them to escape scrutiny. It's not new that companies have profited from genocides, but think of what happened during the Holocaust. The Holocaust industrialist trials helped understand how companies made businesses out of the tragedy of millions of Jewish people. And it's shocking to see that some of the companies who were held responsible in the case of the Holocaust industrialist trials are still involved in the genocide of the Palestinians. And then there was the South Africa experience after the Truth and Reconciliation Commission concluded its work. Some companies were condemned and to make reparations. So there have been historical moments that have prompted greater regulation for companies. And for example, the UN guiding principles imposing due diligence to companies are an outcome of the South Africa experience. And still, it's not enough. It's definitely not enough because companies continue to operate, in the gray areas of state responsibility. So, if, for example, I put on notice 48 businesses, and the response was, yeah, but it's not our fault, it's Israel. Oh, yeah, it's not up to you to tell us what we should do, it's the states.
Like what?
So, no, I'm sorry. No. Today, the occupation is unlawful. Israel has been put on notice, is investigated directly or indirectly in at least 3 proceedings for genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. And you cannot continue business as usual. And if you do, you will have to face justice. So this is probably the storm that I will help to mount against them, is to make sure that civil society and lawyers in every country where these businesses are registered are active. And also that consumers know that they can vote, they can bail out. They can make sure, for example, there are tourism companies who advise settlement properties. You should seal, or for example, real estate agents who sell nice English-speaking neighborhood in the heart of Judea and Samaria.
Right.
Yes. So this is normalization of the occupation by a click. and you are going to be punished. Maybe not in court, but surely you will lose. You will lose a lot of clients when they will know what you do.
Let's just close by talking about international bodies, the ICC, the United Nations. They've certainly stepped up and spoken in opposition to the genocide, attempted to hold Israel accountable for the genocide, but have no enforcement mechanism. How do you look at these international organizations and the role that they've played in the genocide?
Look, I do not agree to the fullest with the argument that there are no enforcement mechanisms. There are enforcement mechanisms, and this is member states. Member states have an obligation to enforce the decision of the ICJ. That is even the Security Council. The Security Council last year passed a resolution ordering a ceasefire in Gaza, which was not respected. So there is no enforcement of anything these days that is thought, is conceived to put a limit to Israel's impunity. And in a way, yes, I agree with what you were saying before. Israel is seen somewhat like part of Western settler colonialism. Israel is seen.
Privilege is you being able to, as an American, like she said, they're listing places in Judea and Samaria as, places you can go and live. When you as an American citizen can go into these settler areas and roam freely when Palestinians can't, that's a privilege that how do you even scope that to anything?
As part of the Western confrontation with the rest of the world, which is shameful, frankly. We shouldn't be still here in this racial way of racial optics, this racialized way of looking at each other. We are part of the same family. This is what humanity means. Doesn't matter the color of your skin. Doesn't matter the God you worship or don't. Doesn't matter. It's what makes us human. And we are so cruel among all animals, among all creatures in this world, because we really have so many barriers that we have erected, and we need to remove them. Now it's the chance. I don't know if we need another genocide, but this genocide is triggering something more, Chris. You see the war in Iran, the war against Iran, it was totally predictable. It was totally predictable because Israel has been seeding wars in the region for decades, and it was Iraq. Then it's been other countries. Libya and Syria have also been devastated. And you cannot blame Israel for everything. Well, Israel has surely benefited from an annihilation of all adversaries in the region. And bombing Iran has been like feeding a demon. It was the long-term goal of several Israeli government, and finally it has happened. But what have the Israelis to gain from this, seriously? From the death of innocent lives, being them Iranians or Israelis.
600.
This is why I say this needs
I think 30
to stop.
Israelis.
And the enforcement is there.
It's pointless
But
lines.
it's with member states.
Gone.
Well, member states keep on, kicking the can in the air and expecting that is a deus ex machina to intervene, being the European Union as a whole or being the United Nations as a whole. No, it starts with principled member states. And this is why, once again, I commend so much the Hague Group, because they are acting not as a regional or trans-regional organization, but as a coalition of like-minded and principled states.
Great. Thanks, Francesca. And I want to thank Diego, Victor, Sophia, and Thomas, and Max, who produced the show. You can find me at chrishedges.substack.com.
Cool. Yeah. So that was the Chris Hedges report. I knew that, especially since those two had gotten together, that it's something that I would be watching on my own time. So I figured, why not, hopefully bring an audience and put it out onto the internet to gain more traction with other people. The fact is, none of this is going to change until we make it change. So hopefully these little streams that I put on at night are enough to impact something. But thank you. I think that's really all I had for tonight. Again, we have commands in the chat to Gaza Writes Back, and then a fund, a GoFundMe right here. So yeah, if you guys can, please donate to the GoFundMe. Another look at the Gaza Writes Back. I talked about my experience with Rafat, him being very influential in my thoughts and how I learned about Palestine as well. So, and then the Hague group, this is what they were talking about during the video. But yeah. So again, really, even in that video, I think there's a lot of good things to take away. Francesca will be producing a report soon that will hopefully detail and outline exactly how, she said 48 or 50 companies, I believe, that she'll be able to directly correlate what they're doing to profit from the genocide in Gaza, which is like, that's, linking it directly to money, showing that kind of numbers and putting that out there. Like, yeah, we're going to make sure we spread that word and be all on top of that. So yeah, thank you if you did support the stream tonight. If you're watching later, whatever it is, I appreciate you. So, all right. And what is it? 0, 3, 2. There we go. So, yeah, look at that. Latest spellcaster, Lily Dilly. Thank you, Lily, for following the stream. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for also getting the checking out the Gaza Writes Back link. So, yeah, really appreciate it. And as always, free Palestine.